Hey guys, today I'm bringing you a Valentine compilation of 5 of my top Valentine gnomes, all in one video for your inspiration. If you want to know how to make them, stick around. I'll show you how. Thanks for watching. I love you guys. We're going to use all these supplies. We're going to use some fabric, some heart, some faux fur, a craft tube, brick rack, some pipe cleaner, and a piece of chipboard. And it'll all be listed in the description below. Okay, my hearts were plain, and I came in and painted them with the Martha Stewart raspberry ice and put some iridescent glitter on them, and that's how I got the look of the ones I just showed you a second ago. Just put those aside, let them dry. Then we're going to take our craft tube, and we're just going to glue all the way around the bottom of it and attach it to our chipboard, and that's what's going to hold our candy in. Okay, next what we're going to do is we're going to take our fabric that goes around our tube. We are going to hem up one side for the bottom, and then the opposite side as well. And then we are going to hem up one edge. We're just going to try to make it all sealed in so we don't have any strings hanging off of our fabric, and when you pull the hat on and off, it stays all together. Okay, next I'm going to take my tube and I'm going to go ahead and cut the chipboard out. Just go all the way around as close to the edge of the tube as you can get and just cut that off. Then we're going to go ahead and attach it to the raw edge of the fabric and roll it up. And I'm going to flip mine over and pull it as I'm gluing it, just to make sure I get all of the wrinkles out, because you don't want any wrinkles on it when you get done. Okay, then I took a 6-inch piece of rickrack. I'm just folding it in half on the middle. Put some glue in the middle. Just make sure that your seam is in the back and that your rickrack ends in the back where your seam is. Okay, next we're going to cut our beard, and we're just going to cut it at 1 3/4 wide by 1 1/4 long, and then just cutting in a U shape all the way around to that mark and back up the other side behind the faux fur only, and then just comb that out to get the excess fur off. Okay, I'm going to mark at 1 1/4 inches from the top, and that's where our beard's going to go. So just go ahead and put glue on the top edge and down the middle of it, and just glue that down. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and attach the 2-inch heart to the bottom of it. Just add glue on the bottom, and you're going to pull it over the edge a little bit to make it look like he has little feet. So probably about 3/8 of an inch over the edge. Next, we're going to make our hat. This is the 8 1/2 inch side. So you're going to hem up the 8-inch side. Just go ahead and put a little bit of glue across there, and I'm probably doing it up probably about a 1/2 inch up. Just make sure it's glued in good, because that hat will probably come off and on a lot while that candy's still in that container. Then go ahead and fold it over, and starting at the edge, we are just going to diagonal up to the top edge of there to make our hat. Just cut that off straight up there. Next, turn it inside out with facing sides together, and go ahead and glue those down, but we are going to glue them down about a 1/2 inch from the top. So don't glue all the way to the top, because our pipe cleaner is going to have to go through there. Then we're going to put it aside. We're going to take our drill. If you have a drill, this is the easy way to do it. Just fold your 2 pipe cleaners in half, because it does make it real uniform when you get it done. Just go ahead and put it in like it's a drill bit, and then just hold one end and slowly turn it while you're twisting it. We're going to cut it off at 5 inches in length. Fold it right down the center. Take some pliers and pinch it, and then just start pulling it back and shaping the shape of a heart. And then go ahead and take some glue, and we're just going to glue those 2 points together. Just hold that till it dries. Then we're going to take another piece of pipe cleaner. We're going to fold it over about 1 1/2 inches, glue it to the heart, and then we're going to glue it to the other pipe cleaner. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and take our pliers, and we're going to turn our hat right side out. Go ahead and put your pliers back in there just to not put that hole all the way through. And you're just going to slide that pipe cleaner right down inside of that hat. Pull it all the way down. And then go ahead and cut off the excess, because we want it flush with the hat. And we are going to bend that back so we don't have any points sticking out, and we're going to glue that down. Next, we're going to take the little 1 1/4 inch heart, and we're going to attach these 15mm flat half beads to them. And we're going to diagonal over the edge a little bit, hang over the edge a little bit, so it looks like he's holding that heart. Then go ahead and take your bead, and we are going to attach that about 1/2 inch down from the top edge. And then go ahead and pull your beard together, and we're going to glue that heart right onto his beard. And I got these at Dollar Tree, the hearts. Okay, now we're going to put that aside, and I got this little felt heart. I got it at Dollar Tree as well, and I'm just going to glue that probably about 3/4 of an inch up from the edge. Okay, then just put your candy in it. Put the hat back on. And pull it down to where it kind of buckles a little bit up over his nose. And then we're just going to bend it straight down the side. And then we're going to bend the heart straight up against the hat like that. And then we're going to glue the hat down. Don't glue it to the tube, just to the hat itself. And then glue the heart down to the edge as well. We're going to go ahead and take the hat off, and I'm going to show you how much candy you can get in here. It does hold a lot. And then I'm just going to take some press and seal to put over the top edge, so if somebody were to turn it upside down, all the candy doesn't go into the hat. And I'm using press and seal because it pushes against that tube and seals up really well. Just put a rubber band around there and then trim any of the excess off. And then just put your hat back on, and there you have it, a cute little Valentine treat container. But make plenty because everybody will want one. Okay, these are all the supplies you're going to use for this. We're going to make the body out of a pool noodle, and we're going to cover it with a 2-inch tubular stockinette to kind of give it the skin tone effect on it. I'm listing all the supplies in the description below, and you can also see them on my website at www.pattyjgood.com. Okay, let's get started. First thing what we're going to do is we're going to make our diaper. We are going to take a piece of pinewood derby weight, and we're going to attach it to the inside of the pool noodle just to give him a little bit of weight. Okay, next thing I did is I went ahead and took to the tubular stockinette, just put it over the top, and we're going to glue the top and the bottom in. Okay, now we're going to take the diaper, and you're going to cut 2 of these, and you're going to cut glue around the edges, leaving about 3 inches open along the top edge so that we can turn it right side out. Okay, let that dry, and then we're going to turn it right side out. And I use a pair of pliers because it's a little bit easier to reach in there and get the corners pulled out. And then I'm going to come back with a bone folder that I use for paper crafting, just to kind of smooth all those curves out. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and seal up the front. So just go ahead and glue that back about 1/4 of an inch to the inside. And then we're going to turn the opposite side back 1/4 of an inch and glue the two together just to seal that diaper shut. Okay, then just grab your pool noodle and just make sure that the back and the front are both the same height before you glue it in. Just make sure that you know exactly where it's going to be before you glue it down. And then just glue that down to the pool noodle. Okay, when you're pulling this front part across, just make sure that both of those are in line with each other, because we are going to come back in with a diaper pin and glue that on top of it. So you'll want to make sure those line up. Okay, now we're going to take our faux fur, and we are going to mark it at 2 1/4 by 2 inches. And then I'm just drawing a little bit of U around here to kind of help guide me where to cut. And then you're going to cut behind the faux fur only, all the way around, and then just clean the excess fur off of it. Okay, we're going to attach it to the pool noodle right at the top edge. Just make sure you get that centered over the diaper. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and open up the center just a little bit at the top, and we're going to glue that ball down to probably about 1/2 inch from the top, and glue it right down in the center. Okay, for the shoes, you're going to take a 6-inch stick. You're going to mark it at 3 inches, and then go and sharpen both ends, and that's what's going to go into the noodle. Just cut it right down the middle, and you have one for each shoe. Then turn your miter blade up just 1 notch,
and you're going to cut this at a diagonal. If you don't have a miter cutter, just cut it just slightly, because you're going to put it onto the pool noodle, and so the legs will stick out like that. So you want to make sure it does come at an angle so it will stick out. Okay, we're going to take our shoes and we're just going to add some weights to them, and I'm just using some 3/8 inch nuts. I'm just putting 2 in each shoe, and that's enough to hold them in place. You really don't have to add a lot of weight to him because he is setting down. Okay, then we're going to take our fabric and we're going to put facing sides together, come over 1.25 inches from the top, because you want to leave an opening to put the shoe in. And then just glue those 2 pieces down. We're going to do the same thing for the other one. Again, go all the way up to about 1.25 inches from the edge, and then glue the back edge down as well. Okay, next take your cork and just shave off a little bit all the way around on the bottom of the cork so it'll fit in your shoe. Don't skip this step or it will not fit in your shoe. And do it for both of them. Then take your cork, put it which one goes on each leg with a diagonal, mark the very bottom, and that's where your seam is going to be for your leg. So you want to make sure not to skip this step, because you want to make sure that the seam for your leg is in the back. And then go ahead and take your cork and mark the top edge so you can see it from the top. Okay, then we're going to take our fabric and we are going to hem up one side on the short side and one side on the long side. And just match it up with that line so that you know when you wrap it around, you know exactly where you need to start to glue and end your glue. Just make sure you end at that same point that you drew. And this is also a stockinette. It's a 2-inch tube by 2 inches in length, just cut in half. And then do the same thing for the opposite leg. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and put our fabric over our shoes. Just turn them right side out. We're going to put a little bit of glue around the inside ledge of the shoe. Pull that on over the top of it, pulling it straight down. And then tuck that in and let that dry. And then we're going to pull the bottom here in a minute. So make sure you let that dry good before you do the next step. And then do the same thing for the opposite shoe. Okay, now that that's dry, you can tug on the bottom part of it and get it pulled tight. You want to make sure that you get it pulled all the way around tight, and then we're going to trim off the excess. And this will just give it a nice finish on the front edge, and it'll be really smooth. So that just glue it in and pull it at the same time. And then we're going to go back in and we're going to trim all the excess off around the bottom. And then we are going to cover that edge up with a piece of trim. So don't worry so much about getting it perfect. And now we're going to take a piece of glitter foam with the glitter side facing down, and we're just going to glue our shoes to it. And I'm just using a white glitter foam. And make sure it's facing down because you want it to be seen on the bottom of the shoe when the shoe actually goes onto your gnome. Okay, now go ahead and take your cork, put your stick in it, and the stick is going to be on the side with the diagonal. The point is going to be on the side with the diagonal. And then just glue both the top and the bottom in as flush as you can get them. Okay, then we're going to take our craft foam and we are going to cut them in half, and then we're just going to go as close to the edge as we can and trim off that so that you have a nice sole on the bottom. Then take your 1/4 inch trim and then just go all the way down. And I'm stretching it as I go because I want it to get as tight to the bottom of that sole as I can, because you don't want any gaps, because that's going to be right in front of your gnome when you get finished. Just trim off the back of it and glue it down. You just want to end in the back. So then go ahead and push it into your shoe. And you can go ahead and glue these in. I didn't show that step, but you can go ahead and glue them into the shoe. But just get your trim on there and pull it tight as you're going around. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and attach it to the noodle. And just make sure you put the right on the right and the left on the left where you did your cut. And you're just going to kind of come in at an angle in the front. Okay, now just go ahead and take it back out and just glue it in. Put some glue around the top edge and inside the noodle to hold it in place. And you're going to do that for both of them. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and just attach the diaper pin. I painted mine red. You can leave it white if you want to, but I just thought it popped a little bit better with the red. Okay, now for the arms, we're going to take a 2-inch tube by 4.5 inches in length, and we're just going to cut those open. And we're going to add some pipe cleaner to them and some beads for the hands. Just take your pipe cleaner, 2 pipe cleaners per hand, and fold it in half. And then we're going to glue down one long side and one short side. And then go ahead and attach your pipe cleaner, leaving a little bit at the top edge for the bead. And then glue your bead in. Now these arms, I did not do them real tight because the bead was a little bit big, you know, because I wanted his hand to be a little bit bigger. So just go ahead and trim that around there, and it will be a little bit loose on his arms. And then just glue that side down. And that's the side that was the finished side. Then just add a little bit of glue into the top edge. Squeeze it shut just to hold it onto the pipe cleaner. And then do the same thing for the other one. And then you're just going to go ahead and just bend it over and attach it to the inside of the noodle. Just get it where you want to. I have mine where his hand is sitting on top of his shoe. Okay, now just go ahead and do the same thing with this one. Same thing, his hand's going to be sitting on top of his shoe because he's going to be holding his bow and arrow on this one side and an arrow on the other side. And go ahead and glue the top edge in. And then we're going to take the hat. The hat's 11 by 11. We're just going to fold it over. We're going to start at the bottom, and we're just going to cut at a diagonal all the way to the top, kind of at a curve. And then just glue that all the way down to the tip. Okay, let that dry, then just fold it over, and we're going to hem it up a 1/2 inch all the way along the bottom. Okay, then we're going to take our pliers and we're just going to turn it right side out. Make sure the tip is poked in there really good. And then we're going to take 3 pipe cleaners. We're going to twist the end and then fold them over so that they don't poke through the hat. Add a little bit of glue to the top, and then we're going to stick it all the way down into the point and glue that in. And come back, and we're just going to bend the bottom 3 back a little bit so you don't have any sharp points on there, and we're just going to glue that down to the back of the hat. Okay, then take your noodle and just pull it all the way over and pull the back down, almost touching the diaper. And then just bend the top part over. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and glue the back part to the noodle. And then pull the front part up a little bit and then attach it to his nose. Just the top edge of the brim to his nose. Okay, now these I got at Hobby Lobby. We're going to take 2 of them because you want them to be stiff. And you're just going to glue them together. Just glue them around the edge. You don't have to put much glue in the center. Just glue them around the edge. And that's what we're going to attach for the back for his wings. So we're just going to put a line of glue right down the center. And then just glue that straight to him with the point setting on the bottom. Okay, next we're going to make his quiver to hold his arrows. And I'm just taking a 3-inch by 2-inch piece of glitter foam. And then I took a 1/2 inch by 2-inch piece of glitter foam to attach that to. So go halfway over that edge and then add glue and wrap the other side so that you have a flush finish on the back part of your quiver. And then we're going to trim out the top and the bottom of it in a minute too. Then take another piece of glitter foam with the glitter side facing down and glue that tube to it and kind of squeeze it open so it is round. Okay, after that dries, we're just going to cut around the edge all the way flush with the other part, and then we're going to just trim all that out. Just a 1/4 inch all the way around. Finishing in the back, and then the same thing on the top. Okay, then I got some little heart sticks at Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to trim those off to the length that I wanted them. Just figure out exactly where you want them to come out of your quiver, and then just trim off the excess, and we're just going to glue them in. Just add a little bit of glue to the back of it, and just start putting them in there. Next, I took another one of those sticks, just cut the heart off of it, and then I'm attaching 2 bigger stickers, 2 heart stickers with the arrow pointing, or the bottom of the heart pointing out like an arrow. I just glued those 2 together over that stick. Then I'm taking a piece of glitter foam, and I'm just going to cut out the bottom of the arrow with it. I cut my tip off, and then I'm just going to maybe do like a triangle, cut the 2 sides off, and then cut another triangle in the center to make the bottom part of the arrow. And then I'm just going to glue that right to that stick. Okay, then we're going to attach the whole quiver to his wings. Just put a little bit of glue down the back of it and just attach it to his wings. Okay, then I'm just coming back in and add another little heart to his hat. And then I'm going to attach his arrow to his shoe and to his hand like he's holding it. And then I did make a bow for the other side, and I'm going to attach it to his shoe and his hand as well. And if you want to know how to make that, stick around to the end of the video and I'll show you how. Okay, just going to take a 1/2 inch ball of oven baked clay, roll it out into like a snake. And then I'm going to roll up one side, and I'm going to leave a hole in it so that I can go ahead and run a string through it when I get done. So go ahead and make sure you have your hole open. Then I'm just going to start shaping it like a bow. Cut that end off, roll that up as well. Go ahead and poke a hole in that too so you can put a string in it. And then we're going to bake it at 250 degrees for 15 minutes. Then just attach your string. A couple little knots at both ends. And that's pretty much it. Then you're done. All right, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it.
He turned out so super cute. I hope you enjoyed him.
Okay guys, these are all the supplies that we're going to use for this video. I'm going to list them all in the description below. If you don't see them in the description below, you can always see them on my website at www.pattyjgood.com. We're going to use a little bit different technique today on the legs. Instead of using the cork and having to drill it, we're going to use a cylinder, a 1-inch cylinder styrofoam. Okay, let's get started. What we're going to do first is we're going to take our 6-inch by 1/4 inch sticks, and we're going to cut them at 5 inches in length, and then we are going to take them and sharpen both ends of them. That way we can get them through our styrofoam and through our noodle. Then take your styrofoam, and we are going to cut it at 2 1/4 inches, and we're going to cut 2 of those. And if you lay it out on your grid, you can cut that pretty straight because you want to try to get them straight. Okay, next what we're going to do is we're going to just glue them right down into the middle of our Dollar Tree party paper shoes. And these actually are going to be really strong. When we get that stick put in there, they're very strong. Just make sure that they're standing straight up. Okay, then just take your stick and poke it all the way down to the bottom. And if you have a hard time just poking them in there, I grabbed a little mat so I could just poke it down into that. Because you want to make sure that your stick goes all the way down to the bottom of that shoe. Okay, then we're going to take our fabric and we're going to glue up one long side and one short side. And this is what we're going to make the boot from. This is a real easy little booty pattern. Okay, and then just do the same thing for the other one. Okay, then we're just going to take it and we're going to fold it in half, find our center point, and that's where we're going to put the very front part of our shoe. Glue it right there, and then we're going to glue it all the way around with the finished edge on the outside. Now get as all the way down to the bottom, even if you have to overlap the bottom just a little bit, because we're not going to come back in and put a band around the bottom to cover up the bottom of the shoe. So try to get as close to the bottom as you can and just make sure it's glued in there really well so it stays completely flush with the bottom of that shoe. And then go ahead and glue up the back part, and you can just lay it down on your table and then put your hand in there and just kind of smooth that out. And then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing with the other one. Just find your center point and glue the front of the shoe in. Okay, then we're going to take it, we're just going to tuck that top edge down just to be about a quarter of an inch above that styrofoam tube, because we're going to glue the top down later. Okay, then we're going to just take a string or a ribbon and tie it around the little boot right to the top of where the little Dollar Tree boot ends. And then just fold that in, and we're just going to glue that down. Now kind of gather it and make it even all the way around as you're gluing it in. You just kind of want it to be pleated all the way around. And then do the same thing with the other one. Just make sure it's glued flush. And then we're going to just take it and we're going to put some weights in the bottom, and I'm just using 3/8 inch nuts. I'm putting 3 inch each shoe. And then we're going to go ahead and glue it to a piece of craft foam to make the sole of the shoe. After those dry, we'll go ahead and cut them out. And then we're going to cut around the bottom of the shoe. Now cut it at an angle, like around the edge, like sideways, and then you won't cut into your fabric at all. Just take your time on this step. Just make sure you get it completely flush all the way down so you won't see it. Okay, next we're going to start building our body. We're going to take a sock and we're going to cut it off right above the heel, and then we're going to go ahead and hem up the top edge. And the only reason I'm doing this, really, you're not going to see it, but it does make it a nice flat surface, and you don't have any strings coming out of it. Okay, then we're going to turn it right side out, and we're going to attach it to our noodle. And we're going to make sure that we tuck the toe all the way in on the bottom. Just make sure to look around the edge so you don't see any of the toe when you have the body right side up. Just get it pushed all the way down in there and make sure that that toe is completely on the bottom. And then go ahead and pull it up. Make sure that if you're using a pattern, make sure your lines are straight. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to add our little, this is a 60 millimeter half ornament. Just push that all the way down in there. And then we're going to go ahead and clip our tab off of that. And then pull your sock on up and just glue it all the way around. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and attach our shoes. Just go ahead and cut with an X-Acto right in the middle on each side. And these shoes are going to be tight in there, and we're going to come back and we're going to take them out, and we're going to glue the top part of the shoe closer in on top of that styrofoam. Just take them out and put your glue in there and just squeeze it on up around there to draw it in. Don't skip this step, because otherwise your shoes will hang over the edge of your pool noodle.
And then go ahead and do that with the second one as well. Just make sure you're just really putting it, kind of gluing it to where the top part of the boot is actually laying on top of that styrofoam tube. Okay, then go ahead and we're going to put them into our shoes just to make sure, to our noodle just to make sure that they're straight. And then we're going to glue them in. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and make the hat. Go ahead and cut that heel part off. And then turn it inside out. And we're just going to attach a string around the top part of it to draw it up to make it a like a beanie. And just kind of get your gathers, pretty even. And then just cut your string off and turn it right side out. And we're going to go ahead and make the pigtails. Okay, I'm taking a 1-inch strip, and the pigtails are going to be 3.5 inches in length. And I just want to come up here and show you. I had a person ask me to do a little bit close up, showing what I mean about cutting behind the faux fur only. You're just cutting the fabric behind it, so you can get your scissors in there real good, and then you don't mess up your faux fur. So we're just going to cut that strip out. Clean all the excess hair off of it. And then I'm going to cut it to 3.5 inch strips. So I'm just going to fold it in half because it's 7 inches. And then we have our pigtails. Then I'm going to go ahead and take our ruler, measure down 2 inches, and that's where we're going to attach those on both sides. And then we're going to space them in the middle 1.25 inches apart. Okay, so once you got all your measurements done, just go ahead and glue those on. And you only need to glue them at the top. You don't need to glue them all the way down the sides. Okay, then we're going to take our hat. We're just going to fold it up a cuff about 1/2 inch all the way around and then glue that in. Okay, then we're going to take our ribbon and we're just going to tie off our little pigtails. And I'm probably doing it about 1/2 inch from the top, maybe 3/4 inch. Just so that you can see it once you get the hat put on, because the hat's going to come just over the top edge of that pigtail. And once you get those tied how you want them, just go ahead and clip off the rest of the excess ribbon. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and attach the hat. Just come up over the top, and we're going to kind of scrunch it down so it's kind of be like a little scrunchy hat. Just come over the top edge of the pigtails and pull it down the back and just kind of pull a little scrunch it up a little bit. Then go ahead and glue the back down. And then the sides, but don't do the front yet. And then I put eyes on her here in a second. I'll show you that. And I decided I didn't like the eyes and covered them back up. So I'll show you both ways. Then I'm just taking a 1-inch pom-pom and attaching it to the top of the hat. Then I'm taking the 15 millimeter beads, half beads for the hands. And then those are the little eyes. And I cut those in. And then tell me what you think in the comments below if you like the eyes or you don't like the eyes. I'd like to hear your opinion on that. And then I'm just attaching a little bit of glue behind them. And then I'm coming back and I'm going to make this little bouquet of hearts for her to hold. These are just some sticks that I got, some heart sticks I got up at Dollar Tree. Just figure out exactly how many you want. You can put however many you want. Tie them off with a ribbon. And then I'm going to come back in and put a rubber band around them because I'm going to cut them with the miter cutter. And I want them to hold together really good while I'm doing that. So just go ahead and put a little clear rubber band around there, and you can leave that on there as well. And then just kind of clip the end of them off.
Okay, then I'm going to come back in and I'm going to put the little nose on there. And that's what she looks like if she has eyes and nose. And go ahead and attach your little bouquet. And then we're going to diagonal her hands around that bouquet. And then I'm just going to straighten those ribbon out and pull them on down. And I'm going to glue them to the bouquet so that you can see her hands a little bit better. And then just go ahead and glue your other hand on. Just kind of do them at a diagonal. And then I decided to come back in and pull that hat down over her nose and glued it over her nose. And then I just took a little heart that I got at Dollar Tree, attached it to her hat.
And I think she turned out adorable. I hope you enjoyed her. Okay, for this one, you're going to need a pattern. It's in the description below. Just download it and print it. You're going to need some faux fur. You're going to need some little toddler anklet socks. They're size like 4 to 7. You get 2 to a pack. I got these at Target. You're going to need some string. You're going to need some ribbon. You're going to need some heart embellishments. You're going to need a bead for the nose. You're going to need a couple beads for the hands. You're going to need some fabric. You'll need some pipe cleaners, some weighted beads, some polyfill, and then a plier to help you turn your stuff right side out. Okay, let's get started. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and cut all our pattern pieces out, and then we're going to cut out our beard. Now I'm just going to place my beard on the back of my faux fur. I'm just going to pin it down, and then I'm just going to cut behind the faux fur only all the way around, and then I'm going to clean the excess fur off. Next, I'm going to take my little sock and I'm just going to even it off around the top so it's straight. And I'm going to open it up and I'm going to fill it about 1/3 of the way full with some weighted beads. And then I'm going to fill the rest of it up with some polyfill. And then I'm going to tie it off with a little rubber band. And I buy these little rubber bands on Amazon in bulk. And they really help to hold everything together until you get it tied off with a string. Now you do have to tie it off with a string when you get done because eventually that rubber band will pop. Okay, just kind of smooth it out. Next, I'm going to take my fabric for my shirt and I am going to hem up one side of it, the long side. And I'm just going to do a 1/4 inch seam all the way across there. Next, I'm going to turn my fabric over with facing sides together and I'm just going to glue down one side. And this is going to be for his top. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and do the arms and the legs, and we're going to take our fabric and we're going to hem up one short side and one long side on all 4 of the pieces. And same thing for the legs. These are going to be for the legs. Okay, then we're going to take the hat, we're going to make facing sides together, and we are going to hem up one side as well. Put all those aside, and then we're going to start building the arms and legs. We're going to take some pipe cleaner, and we're going to fold it in half, and we're going to put one pipe cleaner in each arm and in each leg. And we're going to glue it down the side that's not finished, and we are going to roll that up into the side that is finished. And we'll trim all these off here in a little bit. So you're just going to roll it up in there till it meets that side. And then you're going to do that on all of them. And then cut off any excess that's hanging over. Okay, next just go ahead and take your little beads and just glue them in on the end that's finished out. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and finish up the hat. I'm going to take the hat, I'm going to go ahead and do a cuff on it, and I'm going to cuff it up about 1.5 inches. And then I'm just going to go ahead and glue that down. Then I'm going to go ahead and take my pliers and I'm just going to turn it right side out. Pliers work really good to turn these hats right side out. Just go ahead and push it in there and get the point pointed out. Okay, then I'm just going to go ahead and add a little, about a 1/2 inch cuff all the way around, and then I'm just going to glue that in. Okay, next I'm just going to turn my shirt right side out, and then I'm going to take my body and I'm going to attach my legs. And I'm just going to take the legs and I'm just going to go ahead and bend them a little bit so that they'll sit straight out. And I'm going to glue those right to the front part of that sock, just like that. Just make sure that your little body sits flat. Okay, next I'm going to put my shirt on with the hem side facing downward. And I'm just going to tie it off at the top with my sock just to hold it all together. And I'm just going to take my rubber band, put it around there first, and then I'm going to tie a string around it just to secure it. Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and add my beard, and I'm just going to go right up to the top edge of the body. Then I'm going to take my hat, I'm going to put a pipe cleaner inside of it so that I can bend it. And then I'm just going to glue that in. And I'm gluing it on the side, not the top, not the back. Next, I'm going to do my arms. I'm just going to tie these straight up to the top part of my body. And I'm going to tie a rubber band around it. And then I'm just going to tie it off with a string. Okay, next I'm just going to go ahead and attach my hat and pull it all the way down and pull it farther down in the back than in the front. Bend the top over. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue the back part of it down. Kind of shape your hands out there because we're going to be holding a heart here in a minute. And then just kind of put a little bit of glue under each arm just to kind of secure it to the body. Okay, then I just took 3 little wooden beads, little wooden hearts, and I just painted them red. I'm going to go ahead and attach the nose right to the top. Just put a little dollop of glue on the hat to hold it to the nose. And then go ahead and finish gluing all the way around on the hat. And then go ahead and glue your beard down to your body. Now I'm going to go ahead and glue the heart right to the hands. Tie a little ribbon around the top part of the hat. And then I'm going to add 2 little hearts as his feet. So I'm going to make them sitting straight up. So go ahead and just glue them to the very flat part of the foot. And then go ahead and bend his legs so you can set him on a shelf. And that's it. He turned out super cute. Make 3 of them. They look really cute together. For this gnome, you're going to need a pattern, and it'll be a link in the description section below. And it's going to be 3 different sizes on one pattern. We're going to have a small, a medium, and a large. And you just cut on the line of the one that you want to make. All of them on the hats are all going to be on the same fold. And we're going to make the larger one today. You're going to need some fabric, some pins. You're going to need some ribbon. You're going to need a bead for his hat, a bead for his nose. You're going to need some flowers for the bouquet, some string, some rubber bands if you want to tie the body off easier before you tie the string around it. You need some faux fur, 3 pipe cleaners, and some weighted beads, and a hot glue gun, and a sewing machine. There's going to be a sewing of the body. You can have 5 stitches. That's all you're going to be, 5 straight stitches, but you can glue the body together, and I will show you as we go along exactly where you would glue to make that. Okay, I got this fabric at Joann's. It's a real tight woven fabric, and the reason I'm using it is because we're going to add a lot of beads. We're not putting polyfill into this one, and that way you won't see all the beads through the fabric because it is a lot thicker fabric. Okay, I've already cut out my base and my arms on this pattern. I'm doing the larger one so I can show you on the bottom, the boxed corners, and it'll be a little bit easier to see. But just cut whichever square you want, whichever one you want to make. And then you can cut 2 of the arms. And the medium and the large gnome use the same pattern for the arms, and the small one, there's another pattern for that. And next, what you're going to do is you're going to cut out your hat, and all of them are going to be placed on the fold. So fold your fabric in half. They all have the same fold line. You just cut to the size that you want. And then just go ahead and pin your pattern down and go ahead and cut it out. And set it aside, and we're going to go ahead and start putting this thing together. We're just going to fold our hat in half with the facing sides together, and we're going to pin it, and we're going to sew it along the seam. We're going to go ahead and fold our body in half, and we have our body is 7.5 by 7, and we are going to sew it on the 7-inch side, so the shorter two sides together. If you're going to use a hot glue gun, go ahead and glue the seams where we just pinned them, and we're going to go ahead and go over the sewing machine and get started on our sewing. Okay, I just want to show you this little tool that I got on Amazon so that you can get your line straight. It's a little guide, magnetic guide, and it just goes onto the same line, whatever line you were sewing on, and you just put it down there and your lines are straight each time. Super easy. Okay, on this next one, we're going to make our seam allowance 3/8 of an inch on the hat and both the body. And then we're going to take it and open it up, and we're going to put our seam in the back for the body, and we are going to sew it flat opened. So our seam will be in the back, and then we're going to sew our body straight across, and if you're gluing it, that's the line that you're going to glue on. This line, we're going to sew it also at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Then we're going to open it up, and I'm going to show you how the box corner goes. You're going to take both the front and the back where the seam is, pull it open, and then you can see how those corners are opened up so that we can stitch the sides. We're going to come in on each corner 1/2 inch on both sides and sew it down to get our box pleat. And we're going to sew across this line and this line, and we're going to do it at 1/2 inch seam allowance. If you were going to glue it, you would just fold those corners in and glue those down towards the center on both sides. And this is what the box bottom will look like when you turn it right side out. And if you did sew the bottom up, you're going to go ahead and just clip the corners on both sides. And then we're going to turn it right side out, and we're going to start filling it with our beads. Okay, next we're just going to fill it with our beads, our weighted beads. We're not using any polyfill. We're using all beads this time so that it balances them out with all the attachments that we're putting on him. Then we're going to take a rubber band tied around the top, about 1 inch down from the top. And then we're going to tie that off with a string to secure it. You want to use a string because the rubber band will deteriorate. Then we're going to clip our ends. Okay, now we're going to set that aside, and we're going to take our hat. We're going to cuff it up about 1/2 inch all the way around. And then we're going to glue that down and secure it so that when we turn our hat right side out, we have a smooth edge around the edge of the gnome. Okay, and then we're going to take our needle nose pliers to turn our hat right side out. It's really the easiest way to do that. Turn it all the way right side out, but don't push it all the way through because we need an opening in the cavity to put our bead. We're going to open that up with a stick or whatever you need to use just so that we can get some hot glue down in there to put our bead in. So we're just going to put our bead down in the top of that cavity, and to secure it, we're going to fill it with some hot glue and then put the bead in there, and then we're just going to hold it until it dries. And then we're just going to attach a ribbon around the bottom part of where that bead is so there's a separation between the hat and the bead, and we're just going to tie that in a bow. Okay, we're going to put that aside, and we're going to go ahead and start building our bouquet. We need a 2-inch by 2-inch square piece of felt, and then we need some flowers. We're going to take the flowers. I'm using 4 of them, and I'm going to just twist them together to secure them. I got these flowers at Hobby Lobby. And then for the medium size and the smaller gnome, I got some smaller flowers. You could actually use the smaller flowers for this gnome too. They come in a box that looks like that and have a variety of them. Just put more of them in there. We're just going to twist that up, and then we are going to glue that down into the piece of felt, and we are going to roll it up. And we're not going to do it real tight because we're going to put a bow around the edge when we're done. Okay, we're just going to roll that up, and then we're going to secure that with some glue at the end. And then we're going to take a ribbon, and we're going to tie it around there, and we're going to have the seam facing to the back because that's the part that's going to go against the body of the gnome, and you won't see that seam when you're done. And then just clip your ends off. Okay, next we're going to start building our arms. We're going to take 2 pieces of the fabric. We're going to take the pipe cleaner, 2 of them. We're going to fold them in half, and that's going to be in our arms so we can bend them around the things that we've got going on. We're going to go ahead and hem it up about 1/4 inch on both pieces so that we have a smooth edge around his arm. And then we're going to put our pipe cleaner down. We're going to glue it down on one side. We're going to roll it, and we're going to glue it off at the end So we are gluing our pipe cleaner into our arm so we can be able to bend his arms. And then just finish it off with hot glue, and then we're going to do that to both pieces. Okay, after we finish that, we're just going to put those two aside, and we're going to go ahead and add the beard. We're going to go ahead and cut him out. Just turn the fabric over and then mark your beard on there, and then we are going to cut it. And we're only going to cut into the backing of the faux fur, not the fur itself. And we're just going to cut it into a U shape and go all the way around those marks, and then open it, pull it apart, and then brush him out. We're going to then glue him to our gnome about half an inch down from the top. And we're going to put him aside. And then we're going to go ahead and put our arms, start building our arms. We're going to wrap the arm around the bouquet. And then we are going to secure it on the back with some glue. And then we're going to secure it on the front of the arm as well, so it holds it in there. And then we're going to take our hat. We're going to put a piece of pipe cleaner in it. We're going to cut off about an inch off of this pipe cleaner because we don't need to go all the way to the top. And then we're going to glue it down into the body of the gnome. Just put some hot glue in there. Put your pipe cleaner in there, and then just squeeze it tight. And after it dries, we're going to go ahead and attach our hat. We just want to make sure that the seam on our hat is matching the seam on the back of the gnome so that they line up. Then make sure that they line up, and then we're just going to bend our hat over, and we are going to secure just the back of our hat to our gnome with a little bit of hot glue on both sides. Just on the back because we still have to have room to put our arms in. Okay, next we're going to attach our arms, and we're going to cut our pipe cleaner off probably about an inch, and then we're going to bend it forward so we can stick that up underneath the hat, and then the bouquet is out to his side. Once you get it in there where you want it, we're going to take some hot glue, and we're going to attach it to the back part of the arm, and then we're going to put a little bit on the front part of the arm right underneath the hat to hold it secure. Then we're going to take the other arm, and we are going to try to figure out exactly where we want it, because if you're going to put a piece of candy in there, you want it long enough to wrap around the candy bar. So just take your time and figure out exactly where you want that before we glue that down. So we're going to bend it around just to make sure that we can get a candy bar in there, and then we're going to secure it to the body. We're just going to kind of make a loop around the arm so that he can hold the candy bar. And just make sure that you get it in there exactly like you want it. You don't have to put a candy bar. You can just glue the arm off without it if you don't want to put a candy bar in it. Then we're going to attach glue underneath his arm to the body. And then we're going to attach glue underneath the hat to the top part just to secure him in there really good. Okay, then we're going to take the nose, and we're going to put some glue on the back side of the nose. We're going to lift his hat up and glue his nose to his beard. And then we're going to take a little bit of glue underneath the top part of the hat and glue it down to the nose. Then we're going to add our candy bar. I'm not going to glue my candy bar in. I'm just going to sit it in there and tighten and put his arm around it and tighten it up because I want to store him for next year, and I don't want to have candy in it. Okay, I hope y'all really enjoyed this compilation of my past videos for Valentine's Day. If you like these kind of videos, be sure and give me a like. And if you want to see future videos, be sure and subscribe and ring that bell so you're notified when I have a new video upload. Thank y'all so much for watching. I really appreciate it.